Well, this is one of those moments where you forget that the intro is a little bit shorter than it used to be, and you try and glug a load of coffee down, and then it's like, crap, we're live. Anyway, hi, Ben.
Hey, Lee.
What's going on in your internet world this evening?
My internet is fine. My MacBook is having severe difficulties, though. I've got about a minute remaining for a reboot, hence I'm on my phone, so I may vanish unprofessionally partway through the interview just so I can get my setup back up.
I mean, this was our one chance to look professional, considering our guest tonight in the multimedia area, whereas it relates to Speedway, and we're going to let ourselves down massively. I've just basically balls the intro because I've been drinking coffee, and your phone's going to die in a minute.
It's part of our charm. What can I say?
It is. Welcome, everybody. Thank you very much indeed for joining us this evening. It's going to be another great evening. We've got some amazing guests coming to you very, very shortly. I'm going to run through the socials very quickly at the start. PirateCast.live will take you straight to our YouTube channel, or you can go to youtube.com/PirateCast live. Wow, I'm all over the place. Our official website, piratecast.co.uk. You can get on Twitter and interact with us at PirateCast. Instagram, we are PirateCast Live. And check out our store as well. If you want to get some PirateCast logo merch, you can head over to shop.piratecast.live. Don't buy it now. Wait till they've got a 35% off sale on and buy it then. There you go. Always trying to save you money. Okay, let's have a quick. Ben, do you want to go through the chat room and see who's in with us this evening?
I literally can't do that right now, mate. I'm in here as a guest.
Okay, all right, let's fire on then. So David James, Jez McKinley, Clive Tyers, Betty Lou is in there, Darren Baker, Maddie Dunnington, Andy is in there. Who else have we got? Mia, Daniel Roberts is in there. Unwild Daniel Roberts. Scotty Mitchell is in there. Good evening, Scott. Who else have we got? Neil Burrows, Evil Robot Steve, lots of people in there joining us this evening. So thank you everyone for joining us. Bit of a weird day for us, and a bit of a weird time for us. We don't normally do a Tuesday, but the thinking of it was we were going to be directly in between the first and the second leg of the BSN final. Weather had other plans, as it is in Bournemouth and Poole area at the moment, unfortunately. However, it is supposed to be okay from sort of, I think, midnight tonight all the way through until tomorrow evening. So plenty of time to get the track sorted out down in Poole. I wouldn't worry, but don't quote me on it. Worse things have happened. Okay, how are you doing, Ben? You all right?
Yeah, I'm okay.
Okay, how many subs have we got now on the channel, Ben? Because I know you've been editing the show.
270 guys, absolutely amazing. Thank you.
That's good. Awesome. Thank you very much. If you haven't subscribed to us, we know we get way more views than we have subscribers. If you could do, it doesn't cost you anything. Just click on that little subscribe button on YouTube. Really does help us out, especially if we get to 1,000, because then, we get like watch time and you get some cash for people that watch us and all that kind of stuff. Doesn't cost you anything. Now, this is weird, Ben. I'm going to do this. I'm going to bring you in on your other phone, your MacBook now. There's Ben filming himself on his phone.
We're going Inception.
Right, there we go. Right, we're done. Ow. Right, there we go. Good, done. Right, as smooth as that. Right, okay. Shall we get rid of this unprofessionalness and bring on our guest this evening?
Yes, absolutely.
Let's get that done. So we have two very important guests with us tonight. Again, we've been doing this and trying to get Speedway in the multimedia universe for many years, sometimes successfully, sometimes not so much. It's not as easy as it looks. Guys we've got coming on. What was that?
Nothing.
It's
the chair on the wall.
Okay. Did you sit on a dog or something?
Yeah.
Anyway. So here we go. We're going to bring on our guests this evening. We've got Martin Hunter and Ian Brannan from BSN. They're going to be joining us right now. Here we go. Let's bring them in. There we go. Let me change the background. Ben, you do the talking for a sec because
how you doing, guys? Thank you so much for coming in. How's everything treating you?
All good.
Yeah. So far, so good. I was impressed. I thought that you were actually doing the first bit on an actual Game Boy, but then I realised it was a case on your phone.
No, it's good, isn't it? Ian, you've been a bit busy, haven't you, today? Is it a record for you?
It's certainly been a Speedway day, yeah. I've just finished the official British Speedway podcast, which usually I finish it about this time, but we also do this 5-minute version now, which goes out across the Premiership clubs, which usually I do on a Wednesday morning. But because we're going to Poole tomorrow, I've had to knuckle down and get all my Wednesday work done on a Tuesday. So yeah, and then before that, I do Kelvin Tatum's podcast as well.
Yeah.
So that was an extra one crammed in for what is already a busy day on a Tuesday. So got him out of the way. 10 till 11, and the rest was, and then because Speedway is not really my main job, Speedway is something I do a lot of and I enjoy, but I do have actual other work to do around the time as well. So I'm a voiceover artist mainly, which is like my main, actual job, I suppose. In addition to making stuff for Speedway. So I had an hour of narrating corporate videos about recycling in Barnsley as
Amazing.
well. So yeah, all bases covered.
I'm going to understand it from. Sorry,
I was just going to say, which one was the most exciting, the Speedway stuff or the recycling in Barnsley?
Well, I mean, you can probably guess.
It's the recycling, isn't it?
Well, I can tell you all about where the stuff in the green bin goes in Doncaster. But yeah, these things sometimes can be handy. You'd be surprised when this sort of knowledge comes in useful. But no, it's been good. I was chatting with Kelvin actually about Poole. He was saying how he wishes that Poole were in the Premiership. I think that's probably because it's quite local to him as well.
And as I understand it, Ian, you are now the voice from your socials of a DIY chain.
Well, I'm one of them. I don't do everything. A lot of these places, they kind of have a selection of voices. So yeah, I'm on in B&Q at the minute, telling people. I do. You see, a lot. I'm from Yorkshire originally, so what sort of a line I've ended up going down is doing quite Yorkshire stuff, which has led me to doing quite a lot of stuff for tradesmen. So that seems to be the stereotypical typecast of all this week you can get a discount on wood. So that kind of thing. So I'm big with the construction guys, which is pretty handy if you have a builder come round, like, and they're trying to like mix their what was it? I had a guy come round mixing plaster. And it was thistle plaster, and I've narrated all the how-to guides on how to mix plaster, so I could actually watch this guy and make sure he was doing it right. I could almost narrate him in real time.
You could have narrated him in his ear.
Exactly. Add the water to the plaster and mix.
That's amazing. That is going to be my new text message tone, I think, now. Let's move on to Speedway. That's what everyone's here to talk about, and it's an interesting sort of area, Speedway. I mean, we started doing a podcast and live audio streaming back in, what was it, 2011, 12, something like that, Ben?
Yeah, 2012.
Yeah, and again, it's one of those sort of arenas where a lot of people don't necessarily appreciate being dragged into the 21st century. We did struggle with it, especially having to click on a link and listen through a computer and listen through their phone and all this kind of stuff, and get into a chat room so they could talk to us and this sort of thing. And the advent of things like YouTube and apps being built into TVs have made everything so much more accessible these days. But I can only imagine that the challenges that we had have been the same challenges that you've had on multiple scales. You're doing things live from speedway arenas, a lot of which I'm guessing at some point didn't even have internet, didn't have the right cabling, all that kind of stuff. And I can tell by the looks on your faces that's the sort of some of the things you've been experiencing. Take us back to day one. How did the BSN kind of come into being? What was the thought? What did you have in mind for it? How was it going to work initially?
So it all started at Redcar, basically. So I was volunteering as sort of social media manager for Redcar, essentially, under obviously, and Ben was the promoter at the time. And he just kind of approached me. They saw what Edinburgh were doing. Obviously, Edinburgh basically paved the way for streaming in Speedway. And yeah, he just approached me and sort of said, look, you're our kind of tech guy go-to. I'd like to look at doing streaming for Redcar. Can you have a go at it? Straight away, I said no. And he basically convinced me because he just said, look, take as long as you want to just figure it out, because I had no idea where I was going with it. I didn't really have a clue what it was, how we did it, how to get where we needed to be. So yeah, was this the 20, where are we now? 2023. This will be in the 2021 season, I think.
Okay.
So spent most of the season sort of figuring it out, buying gear, testing things, very, very budget. Towards the end, got something going, got it working. And the original idea, me and Ben both discussed as he was leaving his role in promotion, was to be able to offer the service out to clubs to do their own streams. So obviously Edinburgh's success was volunteers, did it themselves, kept the cost down. And that was where it was worthwhile. I know Glasgow tried the professional route and brought a team in, and they kind of decided against that because it didn't really weigh up. So we could only see the way forward being, if clubs were going to do it, they'd have to do it themselves. So we thought, look, we can help clubs do it. We can just sort of say, look, we'll come in, help you do it. Pretty much kind of what Andy Haig is now doing at Poole and Plymouth, that sort of role. Yeah. And then we just kind of went on a bit of a tangent, and it just got bigger and bigger and bigger. And I just kind of said to him, look, like, why don't we try this? Like, there's something there. It could work. It's massive. It would be far beyond what we could actually currently do, but let's just push it and see where we can get to. And I think he's mentioned quite a few times, we kind of both helped each other. I don't think it would have happened if me and Ben weren't the two people doing it, because I was coming up with crazy ideas. He was pulling me back down to earth going, don't be stupid, Martin. That's not, that will never work. But on the other hand, he was also very, promoters will never go for it. It'll never work. And I was like, no. Like, they can't not. If we just present them. And we basically built a full presentation with costings and predictions, and went into a meeting and managed to get a meeting with the board, which then took it on to a meeting with the rest of the championship clubs, and they all unanimously said, yeah, it sounds good, let's go for it. And then here we are.
Amazing. That's again, you want something done, you've got to do it yourself. Did you have any difficulties? Again, it's a lot more difficult than many people out there know, and from day one watching it, this isn't as good as what they had on Sky Sports. Sky Sports are a flipping worldwide company. They've got millions behind them. Did you? How was kind of the product evolved from day one? You did your first stream into what we've got now, because it looks, just a couple of years down the road, like a very, very polished professional product that you would sort of expect. If you flick the stream on, you think, oh, am I watching Sky Sports? Am I watching BT Sports? Something like that. Is it been a sort of a steep curve?
Yeah. So first of all, thank you for that. It's always good to hear. Yeah, it really has. So when we first set out, obviously we built something at Redcar that was very budget. We had to invest heavily in our equipment because what we had was nowhere near as good enough to take it to, make this a success.
Yeah.
So we basically bought everything brand new. The biggest thing, obviously, going to different venues, one of the biggest things I had at Redcar, and this... It really does sound quite strange, but one of the biggest challenges I had was the distance between cameras. And it may sound really weird, but if you've got, for instance, if you're going to film or stream, say, basketball, which I've actually done a bit of lately, you have two cameras right next to each other, one on wide, one on close, and your production's right next to it as well. So it's very short cable runs. Speedway obviously is not that. And anything over 50 meters is a whole new ball game. It's an expensive ball game. And that was one of the things when we first set out, we were like, right, we need to figure out how we can. There was loads of things, not many venues have internet. Whether they had camera points that we could use. So we needed to buy scaffolding and learn how to build scaffolding ourselves. power. There's a lot of venues that don't even have power points in the place that we needed, so we needed to figure out that. And yeah, to say it's been a learning curve. So we basically, in year 2, after buying all brand new gear for the first year, we went and bought all brand new gear for this year as well. We've upgraded every single component because although we got through it and we scraped through, we knew there was better out. We'd learned more and we knew better ways to do things, basically. And this year, and that really does show. I think even if you could see the behind the scenes, you see how much more settled we are when we set up. We're not worried if things are going to crash and things like that. And obviously, we had a big blip Edinburgh last year where the stream didn't go out very well. There was a lot of issues, and we basically just had to bite the bullet, spend a lot of money on a certain piece of equipment that meant our streams were going out perfectly, which that instantly solved things for us and got the stream going out. So then I think that urged us this year to go, look, if we get all the rest of the equipment and spend on the rest of the equipment, make that a lot easier for us, then we can start to push the production. And I think that's why we're at where we're at now, is that we're confident with the equipment we've got doing the basic job that we can now go, right, let's push this, let's add a different camera here, let's, add a bit more pizzazz, as it were.
Sounds good. Ben, fire away.
Brilliant. Thanks, man. Yeah, absolutely. So, Ian, I think the interesting thing is, like, people, they expect quite a lot from streaming because they're spoilt with the sport providers out there. Can you just talk us through a day, a broadcast day? So, for example, Poole, tomorrow, what's the day look like for you guys? How long does it take you to set up? I know that you often do a track walk as well beforehand on socials. Talk us through that process.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really get involved in the setup side of it, so Martin can talk more about that. But it does, obviously, that's, Martin and Ben will set out earlier, and they'll already be there. I will leave tomorrow, probably around about 8:30 from my house. I'm in the northeast. I'm a bit slightly further north than Martin by about half an hour or so. I'm in Sunderland, so I'll set out tomorrow about 8:30. Drive down to Yorkshire, pick my dad up because my dad also helps out on some of the fixtures. The legend, as he's known.
He is known as the legend.
He is. That's his name. He wonders why that is. He's probably watching now. He wonders why. He thinks there's some kind of some gag he's not in on, but he's just called the legend. Because my dad actually sees he's retired now, but he's got a career in health and safety. So he's actually been like the health and safety advisor to BSN, and he's done a lot of the paperwork from that, and that's where the legend bit came from. But my dad actually helps out in the pits, like radioing back any team changes. So he works with the clerk of the course at a lot of the places. It doesn't come to all of them, but he helps me with the driving as well. So I've insured him on my car, so we share the driving. And like this next couple of weeks, where we've got Poole, we've got Glasgow, we've got Plymouth next week. So it's a bit of a hardcore month is July for the driving front, but. So yeah, I'll pick him up in Yorkshire, then we'll continue down, and I'll probably get there about 3:30, 4 o'clock-ish. And then from there, it's a case of usually I'll do a bit of take a couple of photos for social media, either my own or for BSN, depending on the traffic that we've got going on at the time, because we might be putting, team lineups out and stuff like that. And then it's a case of waiting for the riders to turn up, really. They arrive... Usually it's not so much the riders arriving, it's when they're allowed in. Some places let them in really late, like Birmingham, where we're at a couple of weeks ago. They held them back. They had some problems, so they didn't come in until quite late, and that leaves it a bit full on. Whereas some places the riders drift in at their own leisure a little bit more, and usually by about 5 o'clock they tend to start arriving thereabouts, and so that's when we start to do the track walk kind of thing, and get a ride. If we can get a rider early, it's always easier because they're more relaxed. They're more up for chatting, and whereas if you're closer to the time where they're messing about with their bike or they've got something going on, then obviously it gets a bit full on for them. So try to get the track walk done as soon as we can, and then that obviously leaves it's something that's in the bag then and sorted. Track walk takes about 10, 15 minutes or something like that. And then after that's done, sometimes we do some Facebook live stuff as well around the stadium. If we've been at a place like multiple times in a short space of time, we might not on occasion, because there's sometimes there's not a lot going on, or we've got other stuff going on and we just miss that bit out. But usually we try to do something there. I usually try to buy 20 minutes beforehand just to get something to eat, because once we start, I've got no escape really. I can't really leave the point from once we're live.
Luxury you've got, getting something to eat.
I know, but if I don't, by the time we've finished, obviously everything's shut, and at the end, I just, it's always a thing, because I come from a radio background really. That's where my career has been, and it's not really a superstition as such. It's just more of a habit that I like to make sure I've had something to eat and I had something to drink and I'm all set beforehand. I hate rushing and feeling that you're not comfortable, or if you are starving all the way through something, you're not as good, because your brain needs food, your brain needs water and sugar and all these kind of things, and if you haven't got those, you're not thinking quick enough, and that can make a big difference, especially in a sport that's going as quick as Speedway where there's so much going on. You want to be cool in your own mind. You need a clear head. So I like to, if I've had something to eat and I'm sorted, I'm settled, everything's set up, everything's good, I don't really, you get into your own zone, I suppose, of where you're at. And that makes it easier for the commentary point of view, and that you're concentrating and you haven't got anything in your mind nagging you. And then, away we go. I'm usually there 5-10 minutes before we go live. Obviously, I'm not far away from Martin anyway. We're not, on the moon. So, it's just, 5-10 minutes before, and headphones on. Whoever we've got with us usually joins us about 5 minutes before. And then we're away. And then, the meeting happens. It flies by. And then it's a case of packing stuff up, and that can take another hour or two or more, depending on where we are. And as many of us as possible try to chip in with packing up, makes it quicker for everybody, and then on to the next one. So in our case, it'll be Kings Lynn the day after, and do it all over again.
Wow. That's I don't envy you guys, especially with the travel before we've even started. It sounds like a difficult enough day as it is without having to add a few hours of travel on either end of that. One of the questions that I know Ben's thrown into our little list of questions here. Obviously, you mentioned Poole, and we know the guys down there they do a pretty good job of doing their own live stream on weeks where BSN aren't down at the track. Is it easier or harder at a track that have got their own infrastructure there? I mean, do you share some of the equipment? How does that work?
We don't touch. We bring everything ourselves. Every single thing that's on BSN is ours. But the good thing is, especially down at Poole and Plymouth, Andy Haig is a top guy. Him and Rob, the other camera guy, they actually jump on camera for us. Yeah. So the majority of tracks we go to, we don't take our whole crew with us. We're not like Eurosport where they'll bring in their cameramen and stuff. We just try to rely on sort of local people if we can, or people that we've used who are, may travel a distance. For instance, Andy's actually traveling to Kings Lynn for us on Thursday, because we're a man down there. So it is good when we go somewhere that has got live streaming, because we can rely on that. But in terms of infrastructure, it makes no odds to us, because we don't use anything. Everything is for instance, at Poole tomorrow, we build a full scaffold tower on the first bend, because we have a camera point at the first bend, which Andy does, but it's a static one, I believe, on one of the poles. So it just doesn't really matter to us where we go and if they've got live streaming. Although saying that, I think there's only 2 clubs in the championship now that don't live stream, so it would be handy to tap into that if we needed to.
Yeah. Go on, Ben.
Okay. Yeah. So Darren Baker had a question. Roughly, how long does it take you to set up for the meeting? It was kind of covered off with part of Ian, but I'm guessing you're looking at what, sort of 4 hours or so?
So we'll be at Poole tomorrow. We always aim to get there for about 12-ish. We get there lunchtime. If this was last year, I would have said to you, it takes us from 12 till we go live. We will be running around like headless chickens with waiting to go. You know, we literally do not stop. So last year, when Ian was on about food, me and Ben literally, we had breakfast on the morning. We would not eat until probably 3 o'clock in the morning when we finished. It was a full 22 hour day of traveling, setting up, packing down, everything. This year, thankfully, things are going a little bit more smooth, and the equipment we've got has allowed us to sort of ease up a little bit. Lately, we have been managing to set up in probably sort of the 4 hour mark. But the only thing is even if you set up, like, so we still get there at lunchtime, we'll be set up, say, by 4, but you are still on edge, fixing things, doing things, trying something out until you go live pretty much. So you are still on the ball constantly. But our pack down has become a lot better because the likes of Ian do stay behind and help us. And it's not just the two of us taking everything back in.
Excellent. Another question from the chat room. Unwild Daniel Roberts says, this is a question for Martin. How much do you spend on your equipment? And I'm guessing the home studio there by the looks of it.
So it's, do you know what? I couldn't even tell you how much we spent. We basically plowed the majority of any money that came in back into it. I would say this year alone, we've spent a sizable amount. To put it in perspective, last year when we had that issue at Edinburgh, we bought a piece of equipment that essentially what it does is you can run off sort of 6 different internet connections, be it SIM cards, Wi-Fi, whatever, and it just bonds them together and kind of gives you a solid thing. That alone was about £10,000.
Cool.
And that was just purely, we looked at it and went, whether we can afford it or not, that was the basis of our business. We needed to do a good stream. And if that gave us a solid stream, that's what it took. And I suppose the big thing about BSN, it was never about money. It was never about, it was about Speedway. It was purely a passionate project that we got into probably a little bit too deep, too early. And yeah, I don't think we've ever thought about the money that's come out of it. It's certainly not a great deal of money that's come out of it on our end in terms of living wage or whatever. You know, it's pretty much a full-time job now for me and Ben, but that doesn't come across in wages. It's a pure passion project. But at the end of the day, we both, I mean, Ben especially, had volunteered in Speedway for so many years that it was a chance we were willing to take to just help the sport move on. And I think possibly that's the bit that people don't quite get in terms of BSN. And we aren't Eurosport. We never came in here to be Eurosport. And we're not making boatloads of money. And you know, it's purely, we did it to try and get the clubs more money. And that was the biggest drive behind it, I suppose.
Okay. And I think this kind of ties in quite nicely. I think Ben was potentially looking at the same questions. We've got a fair few questions in the chat room about all around the similar topic of success. How many subscribers do you have? How many season passes? All that sort of stuff. Are you making money? I know it's, you know, go into as much detail or as little detail as you're comfortable doing, but is it working? Are you getting the numbers? Is it better than you thought? Is it got some way to go? Talk us through sort of the success so far.
Okay, I suppose there's 2 things I could probably go to. One of them would be, I did mention earlier that when we first set out this and we did a presentation and we made some predictions of how much money each club would get and how many people would buy it and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And we would literally so close with our predictions of everything that we said. We were just above what we'd said we would get. That was year 1. Obviously, the other side of it is it's year 2. There wouldn't be a year 2 if it wasn't successful. And that's the only way I can kind of really get it across. You know, if it wasn't working and clubs weren't happy, then it wouldn't be here. Simple as that. Especially with clubs doing their own streams. At the end of the day, most clubs, you know, even if they're streaming themselves, they're giving away 2 streams. Obviously, Poole give away a few more because they tend to go a little bit further. But yeah, so they've still got a solid, you know, this year, they've still got a solid 7 streams themselves, plus any cups and things that they're involved in. So they can make good money from their own streams. And then BSN's just an addition, you know, it really is just an addition to what they're doing themselves. But yeah, everybody seemed to be happy. This year, it's certainly increased in some ways. I would say we're up on sort of yearly season passes, whether that's because people didn't want to take season passes last year, not knowing what it is. And this year maybe they took a monthly pass and then have went, oh, hang on a minute, I'd rather pay up front and get it a bit cheaper. So yeah, it must be success. Again, it comes down to if Speedway's happy, then we're happy. So it must be doing something, because obviously Premiership, it perked the ears of the Premiership clubs. They wanted to be involved. They see how it is. So yeah, that for me would be a success. We're doing more streams this year than we've ever done. As tiring as it is, it must be a success.
I think it's a case of thinking of it like it's like another sponsor for the clubs, isn't it? It's like that. It's like having another brand name on your race jacket, but you don't necessarily have on your race jacket. It's that kind of, you know, contribution that helps the club out, and it's an amount. You could put me on some kind of torture chamber. I wouldn't actually know the figures, but I think, you know, from what I understand, it's a decent amount that helps clubs out significantly, you know, in their lives, you know. And Speedway is it's not a massive operation, especially for some clubs. You know, every little helps, doesn't it? And it's, you know, people will say, well, you know, if you're streaming, they're taking people away from the crowd. I think the anecdotal evidence is the opposite, and actually clubs are making a quid or two from people who otherwise would be at home looking on Speedway updates and not contributing anything. So, you know, it's that
was probably one of our main things behind starting it, to be honest. You know, you look at Speedway updates on a busy night, and there can be thousands of people on there sort of watching to see what the updates are, and you're thinking, well, hang on a minute, if you put this in front of them and allow them to watch, then if you can get some of those, a fraction of those, then it's money that would be lost otherwise. They're clearly not at the stadium at that time because they're on Speedway updates. So, although I have been at a stadium whilst on Speedway updates.
On Speedway updates, yeah.
I've been on BSN and on Speedway updates.
Ian, one from Mandy Duddington. Do you have a favourite, or what is your favourite track to be at? I'm guessing it would probably revolve through food purchases, would it not, for yourself?
Do you know what? I am building up a little photo library of the different food offerings. I'm going to start a website called Speedway Scran, and we can rate them. Yeah, food to an extent. Favourite track to be at? I do enjoy trips to Poole. I think, you know, the whole experience of going to Poole is good. If I was going to pick a favourite,
Redcar, it's only half an hour away.
Well, Redcar. I mean, to be fair, Redcar is only half an hour away, but and it has produced the meeting of the season. Full stop between Redcar and Poole, of course. Yeah. I don't think many meetings are going to top that for the drama. Maybe if you're obviously invested in either side, it might have been a little bit more dramatic. But for the neutral, you know, perfect meeting. Yeah, I love Redcar. I think it's a great track. I like my trips to Berwick. I think Berwick's kind of a nice place to go. It's it's a real speedway town. It's got, like, you know, it's not everywhere you go where you walk around the town centre beforehand and everybody's wearing like Berwick Bandit shirts like they wear football shirts in other cities. You know, it's I like trips to Berwick. You know, they've all got their own little quirks in different ways, and I think that's the thing to take from it, that I visited tracks that I would probably never have visited. A lot of the tracks I'd never visited until being there with BSN. So you get a real kind of understanding of what there is and how people do things differently. And also which tracks take cash and which take card and which take only cash. You learn the hard way there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would say Berwick. I like there. Glasgow's good because it's a fast track. I like the fast tracks. I like the ones around football pitches. Those are my favourite tracks. That sort of side. I'm not really I grew up watching Bradford and Halifax, and that's the sort of speedway that I know. It's the the big tracks full on, and I think you do get that at Redcar, even though it's much smaller than that. It's a full on full gas track, isn't it? That's the kind of speedway I enjoy.
And it's a fair track as well. They don't really have a home track advantage. It's always a fair track. Which they struggle if they've got a well-built team come in. That they're always going to struggle there. But it does provide, and like you said, that meeting between Redcar and Poole was absolutely stunning earlier this season. I
obviously before I was involved in speedway was not something that I was involved in professionally. Or in sort of behind the curtain kind of sense until really a few years ago, and so speedway was something that I would go to until fairly recently as a fan, like everybody else does, without knowing any of the politics or any of the stuff that's going on at a club. You'd pay your money, go in, watch the speedway, and go home again. And I'd go pretty much as a neutral, I suppose, to Redcar. Initially it was like a near track. I was going to go and check it out. And I've never seen a bad meeting there. There's always, even if Redcar or the opposition or whoever getting hammered in the first 7 heats, it can come back in the second half every time it gets close. I've not seen a pasting, I don't think, at Redcar.
I think it was Redcar Scunny last year where it was like they were about 12 points down and it was like 4-5-1s in the last 4 heats.
Exactly. You just never know. Yeah. You just never, wherever it's mathematically possible. I've seen it where it's been, they need 3-5-1s at the end and bang, 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 there they are. Oh, they've done it. And it's like, and as you say, it's because it's a fair track. You can just never write anyone off. I'm not saying that's all Redcar's favour. It can, I've seen Redcar be cruising and losing the last heat as well. So, but yeah, as a track, I think Redcar is a hidden gem. But I think with Berwick, I like it because of its location. I think it's a nice, it's a nice trip up there. I think it's more of a day out. Certainly for me in this area, but for everybody else, you go, you can have a day out with your family at Holy Island or something like that, and then go on to the Speedway. It's a nice day out. I think maybe as in addition to it's the other stuff beyond the meeting, I suppose, is in the experience there.
Yeah, excellent, good stuff, good reasoning. I like it. Now, here's my dad going to be sticking his oar in. I'm going to be really honest with this. With many speedway tracks being towards the north of the UK, do you get accused of any northern bias in your coverage and commentary?
I think only from your dad.
Not from the mileage on my car.
Yeah, it's it's quite hard, I suppose. I guess most of it. Even our staff, we're fairly split across the UK in a sense. I know Greg got accused a little bit of some bias against Poole, although he's a Berwick rider. It didn't quite make sense. I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think, personally, I think that I would like to think that our selections for commentators and presenters in the booth are just passionate about what they do, so they may get a little bit tied in with things that they enjoy or people that they enjoy. It's not necessarily teams that they enjoy, because most of the time when we go to tracks that involve that person, they can't actually be there because they're working. So for instance, we got Bellevue. Haley can't be there because she's on the centre green on the microphone. You can definitely hear her on the broadcast, but that's not through our microphones. So yeah, I think that was where I would like to think. And I think any bias, I don't think any of it is. If any of it does come across as bias, I don't think it's harmful. I think it's tongue-in-cheek, playful, and that's what I would like to think that BSN is. I always keep saying to people, when people come up to me, our own team, and they've made a mistake, it doesn't matter. I'd rather us have a little bit of, not unprofessionalism, but a little bit of fun, and I think that's the thing that people really like, the raw Speedway fans, and that was the aim with everybody that we brought in as well, that they were all passionate about the sport just as we were, and we want that to come across. We don't want someone sort of who doesn't really know what they're talking about, or I wouldn't think so, but I'm also very busy during a meeting, so I don't really take too much in. I listen for cues, and that's about it.
I've spoken to it with Lee, and personally, I think if you're at a track for the home track for the home meeting, I think you've got the impartiality. I think the other person should be slightly biased from the home perspective, because you still have that impartiality. So I love it. I like the banter. I think it's great. I think it adds to the broadcast personally.
I think there's for example, the Red Car Poole meeting the other week. Terrific meeting, as we've already said. If there is any bias, it's not intentional, and as Martin said, we are all fans, right? BSN's roots is at Red Car, as we've already discussed, and sometimes you do get wrapped up in it. Even though you're commentating, you are still like living it. And especially when it's as dramatic as that, where Charles Wright drops off or whatever on that last bend, and there's, if we weren't, you can't be totally neutral all the time in the split second. But, you do have, if you have got a club at heart, and that's not say we're biased to Red Car. It's just, if you're there and you're in the stadium and you're in that moment, of course, maybe deep down in your inner conscience, you are rooting slightly for one side over another. It's not purposeful. It's just your natural reaction. In the same way as if we were at Poole and you have we had a Poole commentator who was going around the country. When you get to Poole, of course, you're going to have that inner love for that side. But then again, we wouldn't be Speedway if you just want generic person talking. If you're employing Speedway fans. And same with Hayley, I suppose, and you could see the delight on her face when Bellevue won the pairs. It's just that thing, isn't it? If you want fans running a service, and it's a national service or whatever, but we are all rooted somewhere in Speedway or have a preference. We have to have, because otherwise we won't be fans. So it's one of those things, and we try to be as impartial as possible. Sometimes it maybe spills out of the seams.
The other side of that as well, Ian, is like, that Red Car versus Poole meeting. I think if a team's behind and you're at that stadium, you want that crowd was absolutely on fire that night. It was electric. The atmosphere was unreal. You kind of want Red Car to come back and battle it and make it not to get hammered and make it a rubbish meeting to watch, but also for that crowd to be lifted and really, even if we weren't filming, you would want that, other than if you were a Poole fan. I think that is the only thing. Anywhere we go, if we're at Scunthorpe versus Birmingham, you want Birmingham to really perform and do well, because you want the meeting to be good. So you're going to have some bias somewhere along the line.
Yeah. We're rooting for the drama. That's what we want. You want those moments. You want that, oh my God, because that's the stuff that reminds you why you go to Speedway, because I think you can get so wrapped up in the rules and this and that and the politics and the forums and everybody this. That is why we are Speedway fans. It's for that moment. It's because it's a sport that you just never know. You can't say with 100% certainty of what's going to happen tomorrow. When Poole and Glasgow, you can't say that it's not going to be easy for Poole. You can't say that Glasgow are not going to have a blinder, because anything can happen. All it takes is for a rider to go through the tapes, or someone to pack up on the last lap of a crucial heat. That's why Speedway is great. It's because you just can never tell, and those are the moments that make the difference. Those are the moments that people watch it for.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree more.
Exactly. I'm just looking at time. It's flying by. I think we're going to have to do some quick fire to get through.
I was just going to say exactly the same thing from the chat room.
Ian, one for you from Mia Howler. Do you get nervous going on air? I mean,
no.
No.
That was quick fire.
No. I've been in radio for 25 years. I got nervous once when I did my first travel bulletin on Century Radio Northeast. And it was terrible because I was so nervous. But I think all of the nerves in my career went that was it. And once you've done it, you've done it. You can't. I don't think you can get nervous all the time. I get you get kind of the, what do you call it? Like butterflies, the adrenaline, the excitement, but you feed off that. And yeah, that's why we do it. I do it. That's why I enjoy broadcasting, is because you get that buzz. So I think, no, it's is it nerves? Maybe apprehension, but not nerves. But it's good energy. I like the feeling. That's why I do it.
Good. Tanya says, how was it making your own outside broadcast truck straight gallery?
A godsend this year. So we actually, funny enough, it was Aaron Summers that built it for us. Wow. He was building camper vans, etc., and it's not that dissimilar to that. I wouldn't say it's a full-on OB van sort of thing. It was kind of, to put it in perspective, we go to somewhere like Birmingham and we had to climb about 3 flights of stairs with a computer that weighed about 40 kilograms, all the rest of the equipment, just to set up the office. So now the office is permanently set up in the van, and we can concentrate on the rest of the stuff rather than, maybe 2 hours spent on that. So it was good. It was good throwing ideas at Aaron, and he kind of understood it a little bit and figured things out. And yeah, he was a great help, him and Red Campers, where he worked. And they still, even though Aaron's gone back, Red Campers are still there helping us with any little bits that we've got. So yeah, it's been good.
Excellent.
Okay, we've got a couple that are sort of the same. One from Darren Baker. Who is your favourite commentator? Is it Javi, with a lot of laughing? And from our very own Scotty Mitchell, who's your favourite guest commentator? His is Lee Kilby.
So, I've never commentated with Scott so far, I don't think. Well, yeah, Javi was good value, wasn't he? I think it's very much a 50-50 split. But yeah, Javi was good. Apart from when he was talking about Danny King. Danny King
pulling the cable out.
Oh, he pulled the cable out, yeah. It was all good. Yeah, Javi's good. Who's been good? Well, obviously Adam. Myself and Adam now have commentated together more than anyone else I've commentated with. And Adam, his insight is great, and I think it makes a difference when you've got a regular commentator. It's good having other people come in as well, but I think it's good to have like a solid default as who you're working with, because you do pick up on the rhythm of how things work, and we don't really have to, we know how we're working. And Adam, brings a lot of insight. I think a lot of people have learned a lot from Adam, in how he's explained various stuff. Every meeting he comes out with some gem or other about, how riders think about stuff.
Hot dogs. Sending for hot dogs.
Sending riders for hot dogs. So yeah, and then other, as the guest commentators, I suppose, Stuart Dixon has been really interesting. He's so sharp. He doesn't miss a thing. And it's no surprise to me that Leicester are going great, in the top league now, because, and I said this to Kelvin, actually at the start of the season, because he knew nothing about Leicester at all, and I was saying, Stuart Dixon, he knows what he's on about, he does. He nothing gets past him. And there was
he
the
knows
one
everybody's average.
He knows everybody's average.
You could ask him an average of someone who is not even in this league, and he'll tell you them, or he'll even tell you what average someone's going to be on next month, when the averages come out or whatever.
It's like a guest, isn't it? I say, so-and-so can guess for him. He's got +5 of that is this, and he'll get the things, and he'll be right, and it's unbelievable. And there was the time we were at Glasgow where Stuart was co-commentating about a year or so ago, and were they riding against Plymouth or somebody like that? And
it was Oxford, I think. Was
it Oxford? Oh, that's right, yeah, because they didn't have a team manager there or something like that. Somebody else was take care of, was it? No, Peter Schreck was there, but Jason Crump wasn't. Anyway, there was some rider came out down the ramp, and Stuart's saying, well, I wouldn't have done that. I would have put this rider out because X, Y, and Z, and then put him in this heat and put that rider in that heat. and then the rider, somebody runs down the ramp, shouts the rider back in, and then the rider that Stuart had suggested comes out. Because they'd come out like before the 2 minutes came on. And you do wonder if actually somebody's watching on BSN has gone, actually, he's got a point there. Quick text him, because somebody ran down and shouted him back in. I forget who it was, but yeah, it was. And he goes, there you go, master tactician in action there. So yeah, you learn a lot from Stuart. He's great, but they're all great in their own ways.
Just building on that as well, Tanya has asked, is there anyone you'd love to get on BSN, either in the booth or on the commentary?
I'll leave that one to Ian, because I don't really deal with the people too much. It doesn't matter to me who's in there. I just, people who are easy to work with, we have a good laugh. Yeah, I'm easy.
There was, it's not going to happen, and you'll see why in a minute. But there was a time when BSN first started where, bless him, myself and Nigel Pearson were going to do a meeting.
Yeah.
And obviously that never happened. But I wonder what he would have made of it. Because I think he would have absolutely loved it. He was really supportive at the start, and I've never done commentary until I'd never done lead commentary. I did, like, I was the second commentator for the Red Car streams we were talking about, in 2021.
Yeah.
I did what, 2 or 3?
Yeah.
And I didn't have a clue what I was doing. And I've always said that, I have huge respect for sports commentators, and that it was something I would never do because I just couldn't do it. And you can listen back. I do the Humans of Speedway podcast, and the episode I did with Nigel Pearson, you can listen back to that conversation where I said I would never do sports commentary. Because I think it is really hard. But anyway, you put your mind to something.
Yeah.
And it has been a learning curve for me. But I did speak to Nigel before everything happened with what happened, and because I was working with him doing the British Speedway podcast and stuff for British Speedway. And he did give me some words of advice, but he was very interested to see how it turned out. He hoped it was going to be good for the sport, and obviously he departed.
If I remember rightly,
early.
He was going to step in for you at Birmingham last year and it was like one of the early ones, and it would have been maybe only 2 or 3 weeks after he passed that he was going to step in and do it.
It was Birmingham, Scunthorpe.
Yeah, it was, and it was obviously for us, as me and Ben, as soon as Ian told us that was just like, oh, hang on a minute, what is this? How have we got from being involved with people like that who are willing to come and do it, not for his money that he would be used to either. That was the other side of it. Well, he just wanted to get involved, and he loved what we were doing. He loved the idea from the beginning. Yeah, and supported it wholly.
I asked him and said, would you be interested in doing it? Because it's Birmingham, it's not far for him to go and stuff at the time. And he goes, yeah, I'd love to. I just need to check if I'm available. And he got back to me and said he was. And then he'd actually asked Eurosport permission to do it. And so they knew about it. And yeah, he was all up for it. And then he said, oh, I'll come with you. And me and you will do a fixture one time. And sadly it never happened, but that would have been great. And with that one as a fantasy one, I know it would have happened if it wasn't for obviously things being different. Other than that, I don't know. You probably want some kind of legend, don't you? Like Tony Ricardson or somebody like that. That would be pretty cool.
That would be good. Definitely pay some money to see that. I know there's a question that's been asked a few times, and Darren Baker has mentioned, is there any way, I guess it would come down to the individual stadiums, but is there any way of broadcasting some of the interviews in the booth or pits to the stadium audience? I think that's just one of those things that comes down to infrastructure.
Funnily enough,
Leicester, yes.
We had a slight technical issue at Leicester where our wireless microphones in the booth were connected to the speakers in the stadium. So when Haley started off her production, she was being broadcast around the stadium. It's totally up to the stadiums, isn't it? I suppose in that sense, whether it would work in terms of timings and things, I don't know. We've always said more than happy for them to stick a microphone there as well and get the get the sort of information and the riders thingy. But I mean, most stadiums, they interview the riders at the same time we do anyway. So they'll be talking to, Steve Worrell while we've got Richard Lawson in the booth. So it's normally just dead air that both stadium and us tend to fill anyway. So
sure. Okay.
Just some feedback. Tracy Mills says, loving the BSN coverage. Yes, it's fun, and you're all human and tech issues happen. Grateful to see more Speedway. Thanks to the guys and girls that get it online. And then one of your cameramen, as one of the BSN cameramen, I'd just like to say how enjoyable it is to be involved in the production. It certainly rekindled my enthusiasm to film Speedway. That's Graham.
Thanks, Graham.
Top lad, Graham.
Let's have a look. Let's just fire through a few more of these. Darren, again, it's brilliant to have such great coverage, and the annual season pass is such a bargain. Totally agreed. Scott Mitchell, again, I've only ever commentated with Lee, both for BSN. Let's have a look. Here we go. Here's one for Ian. Ian is a superb commentator. That's from Alan Hickson, clerk of the course at Poole.
Thanks, Alan.
Tanya's backing it up. Considering he didn't want to go into sports commentary, Ian is a great commentator, and Andy again, Ian, brilliant Speedway commentator. So you obviously did something right there.
Cheers, guys. Thank you. Appreciate it. No, it's been a bit of a learning curve. Checks in the post, by the way, guys. But yeah, it is hard. I think with Speedway, perhaps not the easiest sport either to learn. I mean, I've got some friends who are, very good football commentators, for example, or cricket commentators, and the speed that those sports move at, obviously, is a lot slower. It just is. Whereas with Speedway, you can have so much going on. I know you've only got 4 guys, whereas football, you've got, 22 on a pitch. With Speedway, you've only got 4 riders, but they can change places very quickly, especially now with I find with team suits, especially the guys who have got team suits and team bikes like Ipswich. It's like some of them just they do look the same, especially if there's a rider change of some kind, and they don't tell you about it, because we don't necessarily fully see the numbers. If I'm commentating, we only get the shot of the camera. So if you only see the bike coming forwards on, you can't see the side of the bike or the number on the back. So it's that can catch you out sometimes. But we do have very good systems in place with Martin and everyone else that try and catch those little changes. But yeah, I enjoy it. It's something different for me to get my teeth into. I come from a background of playing Eurythmics records and talking for 30 seconds about cash prizes. So it's different to that. So yeah, but completely different discipline. But it's been a good challenge, and it's one by no means I'm complete at, but. I love it. I love doing it.
I think that was one of our big things when we started BSN. Obviously, the budget was low. We just needed to kind of get going. We reached out to people who we thought were passionate, and we really just wanted everybody to be on the journey with us. We could have went to more established commentators and took the one. I don't think people would have had the time that actually was ended up needing. Ian, like he's mentioned, will drive tomorrow from Sunderland all the way to Poole for us. But also, we kind of didn't want the pressure. The one with Nigel there early doors. If he had have ended up doing it, that would have been some major pressure to get that right for a guy who's worked in a professional setting. We were nowhere near professional at that point. So we kind of wanted people, for instance, Premiership Pairs, Peterborough last year, we had Lee Kilby and Haley as our presenters. We couldn't get the booth cam to work whatsoever. So we had to ditch that entire thing. So those two travelled from where they travelled, Lee from down in Essex way, Haley from Manchester, travelled to Peterborough and did nothing all night. Well, I say did nothing. They did a lot of work for us, actually, in the end. It worked out in our favour. But what they turned up to do, they couldn't do. And I feel like if we'd have been paying top dollar for a professional person to be there, I feel like that would have it would have probably hurt more when we had those bad times and things went wrong. I think having people like Lee, Haley, Ian, everyone's just been fully supportive of what we were doing. They had the same vision that we had, and it helped. It really helped when things weren't going right, that they were there to go, don't worry about me. You know, we got the stream out. I didn't mind that I wasn't involved in it. I came here, I had a nice time watching some Speedway. You know, that'll do.
Yeah. Okay. Again, we are very conscious of time, but I think two last topics we'd like to touch on. Finally, I think we'd like to have a very quick chat about the next couple of Poole v Glasgow meetings, and if maybe touch on some predictions and some analysis pre-meeting. But I think the last question for you guys, you've mentioned obviously the curve you've had since you started out, and you've got more and more professional as the seasons have gone on. Where do you see BSN going? What are your aspirations for next season after? What are the growth plans?
We literally take one season at a time. As you guys obviously know yourselves with Poole and announcements today every Speedway club, no matter how successful they are, works pretty much 1 or 2 seasons at a time. No one works too far in advance.
Yeah,
we're exactly the same. We did last year on a let's try this for a year. If it doesn't work out, you can ditch us. We won't go any further with it. It's exactly the same this year. If the clubs turn around and say, no, didn't work for us, we'd have to look at a different route and see what goes on. We just want to keep progressing. It's all we ever do is just push our limits. If we're trying something new, and this is why sometimes things do go wrong, because we've just went, we'll just try it, see if it works, because that's the kind of attitude we want. Is like, if you don't try it, you won't know. Whether it's a different camera angle, whether it's adding something new in, like at Redcar for that Poole meeting, we had a big spider over the top of the stadium type thing, thinking we were Lublin. And yeah, that for me, I would love my next goal for BSN more than anything is to add a third camera person. We currently only have 2 cameramen live on the action, because that's kind of what all the budgets can kind of stretch to. I would love to get to a point where we can add a third, because for me, I think 3 cameras on Speedway is probably the optimum. Obviously, you'd have a couple of statics or whatever, but in terms of actual people following footage, 3 for me is where you can kind of get away with it. It works absolutely perfectly, and you can kind of capture the majority of things. Stadium dependent, because there is some stadiums you can't get as good access to, which is, even professional broadcasters have had that issue. But yeah, that's probably we're small steps. If we can add another cameraman, nail a production without me making a mistake on graphics, then we're all good. We all go home happy.
Easily done. And then again, let's touch on basically the reason why we're here. We got the big 2-legged final coming up, Poole and Glasgow. It's both teams, I think, pretty evenly balanced. We know Chris Harris goes like a train around Poole. He always does, always has. Tom Brennan, of course, Ben Basso returning back to Poole. A quick shuffle round in the team of since the new averages came out for Poole as well, with Richard Lawson going up to number 1, Steve Worrell hiding down at 5. I don't know what to say about it, to be honest. I think it could go either way very easily, which is what you got.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll let Ian take this one first.
That's what we hope. I'm not sure if my connection's dropping, by the way, so if it is, just let me know and I'll reboot it. But yeah, I think we're hoping that it's going to be a close meeting. Obviously, Poole will be looking to get as many points on the board as they can, because obviously you never know what's going to happen when you get up to Ashfield a week on Friday now. So Poole will be looking to assert that home advantage. But as you say, they've got riders in the Glasgow side who know the Poole track well, riders who were not with Poole this time, not with Glasgow this time last year. The likes of Chris Harris in particular are going to be ones to watch. Loves that track. Is some of the iconic moments in British Speedway of the last decade or so have been with Chris Harris involved in some kind of incident at Poole. So that's definitely one to watch. As you say, Ben Basso. Been a bit indifferent, I think, on visits back to Poole Stadium over the last year or so, but he'll be looking to crack on. He's had a good season with Glasgow at that level of speedway, so good opportunity for him. And then, they've got other strong riders throughout their 1 to 7 who are all capable of scoring points, capable of causing surprises. Ace Piper is going to be a strong rider looking to make a name for himself. Then you've got the experience of the likes of Lee Complin, who has visited Poole Stadium on many an occasion, and again, certainly capable of throwing a spanner in the works there. So it's got all the makings of a great fixture. These are the two sides that have made it through to the final on merit. They've beaten the teams in front of them. I don't think it's going to be the last we're going to see of Poole and Glasgow contesting for silverware throughout the course of this season. They are two of the strongest sides, obviously, in the league. Glasgow, perhaps you'd say maybe a bit more pressure on Glasgow, if we're honest, because Glasgow have not won any silverware for quite some time. That is an issue, I think, for the folks at Glasgow, both at the club and for supporters. They've been close so many times. Often it's been Poole that have stood in their way. It's going to be something they're looking to put right. So Glasgow, you can be sure, will be fired up for this, as will the Poole Pirates, where winning, of course, is pretty much a requirement. It's got all the makings of a great tie. Not just the fixture tomorrow, but the return. You just never know what's going to happen up at Ashfield. Obviously, Poole were very, very strong there last year, but this is a slightly different Poole team and a very different Glasgow team to the one of last year. So interesting to see how it goes, because I think this could give us a good insight into how the rest of the season might pan out as well when we get to the sort of business end.
See, I would disagree with that. It could show us how it's going to pan out towards, because, like you said, it could go either way. I think Glasgow could turn up to Poole tomorrow and pull off a win. They could get beat by 12, but then the next time they go there, they could pull off a win. I honestly think these two teams literally could do anything at either venue.
True.
The way Poole have performed at home this year, I think, has probably been under par to what they would like to. The Scunthorpe meeting, the Red Car meeting, were a little bit too close for comfort, which gives you the idea that Glasgow could go there and do some damage. But equally, even if Glasgow walked away with a 2.4 point win, the same could happen at Glasgow, because Poole again have been good at Glasgow. So I really don't think you can call it either way. I would like to think it would be two home wins, close enough that it keeps the tie nice and interesting. But I honestly think if Glasgow walk away with a win, it's definitely not all over. Which normally it would be in a 2-leg tie if the away team win if the away team win the first leg.
Yeah,
it could be all over. But I honestly do not believe that in this tie it could go anywhere.
Yeah, I'm in agreement there. I mean, again, as you said, it's from your perspective, from a BSN point of view, regardless of what way the first leg goes, even if it is a sound thrashing by either team, there's no way you can miss the second leg because it could easily turn on its head, whatever the score of the first leg is. So, yeah, as you say, it's going to be very, very interesting, certainly a must watch. And as you say, some teams that can be 100% dominant one week and, maybe struggle a little the next week. And you never know which one of those teams is going to turn up, which makes this a really, really exciting final. So, we can check out on BSN. Guys, I can't thank you enough for your time. We know you're both incredibly busy. Ian, you're probably going to do another podcast in a minute. Well, yeah, we'll see.
No, I'm done. I'm done. It's tea time.
Good. Sounds good to me. What I'd like to do is give you guys an opportunity to throw out. So I know, Ian, you're involved in other podcasts and things. Throw out some links for that. And Martin, if there's anything you want to throw out there as well, obviously, I'll plug the BSN to your heart's content.
I'll just leave it to Ian. Ian's got plenty of speedway stuff.
My other podcasts, well, the podcast that got me involved in Speedway in the first place as such was my Humans of Speedway podcast, which has been running for quite a while now, which I'm not actually, there's nothing new on there, but there is a fair bit of Poole-related content on there. There's and it's called that's like a sort of like a life story sort of idea of different people, not necessarily riders, but others. Certainly we've got Steve Worrell on there. Adam Roynan's on there. Maybe there's probably Javi. Yeah, Javi's on there, right? That's a good one. So yeah, that's Humans of Speedway. So that kind of ended up leading to everything else. I do the official British Speedway podcast, which is called No Brakes, No Fear, which is out every Wednesday morning, including tomorrow morning. And this week, I can tell you, we've got a chat with Dave Hoggart, the new manager of Kings Lynn, who explains what it's like taking charge of Kings Lynn and if Artem Laguta might turn up or not on Thursday. So we'll find out about that. I also do Tatum Talks, which is Kelvin Tatum's podcast. There'll be a new episode of that coming when I get a minute. I've recorded it. I just haven't had time to finish it yet. So that'll be at some point this week. And that's it for Speedway, I think. Obviously BSN, lots of BSN stuff. So get on the BSN. If you haven't never watched BSN, then well, maybe you should try us out. I would recommend. And then that's it really. You might, I'm available for voiceover work. Obviously, if people want me to narrate your corporate video about cement, then
even just your everyday life. Even just your everyday life,
I'm the voice of South Dorsetshire auctions on some radio commercials round the Poole area. I know that. So
and your local Asda.
Oh yeah, Asda, Nicer, Spa, B&Q.
I think it could be something like a Family Guy situation where someone employs you to narrate their life as they're walking around. I think that'd be brilliant.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's make it happen.
That's what I do. That's just like in my own head.
Amazing.
Brilliant.
Guys, thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's obviously going to be a long day for you guys tomorrow. I think the rain is starting to ease off now, so you should be okay. Weather's looking all good for tomorrow, so should be a nice track. Should get some good racing out of you guys. Oh yeah,
yeah. We had the double last year, didn't we? Of driving all the way to Plymouth for a rain off and driving all the way to Poole for a rain off. But the Poole one, we got there and it was perfectly blue sky, and it was the day where it rained like half an hour before start time and washed it out. Mind you, Plymouth was the one where they started the meeting and then cancelled it after they'd done the parade.
Yeah, that was my birthday meeting. That was the one when Noah's Ark literally came with the rain through the stadium. That's how heavy. That's how heavy that rainfall was. That was that one. Yeah.
Then we had the one. Did we have the one where it rained and I think it was the red car at Poole in like August where it rained and they just got the meeting on as well.
Yeah. That's right. They they delayed the start for a little bit to do extra work to the track, and I remember that one well.
I think last year we got rained off twice at Poole and 3 times at Plymouth. Every single time we were there, none of it was in advance. We were there, ready and waiting. So we'd done our 6-7 hour drive to get there. But then again, I think we counted up. It was something like 20 rain-offs last year, and we were doing 40 meetings. Half of our meetings were rained off at some point.
A lot of those were in like September though, weren't they? It was like the playoffs was a nightmare because that's why it went until November. It was just like we had a really good run of hardly any rain-offs, and they all happened at once. Although we had some good nights out in Bournemouth instead.
We did have some very good nights.
Sounds good, guys. I appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
If
you can't make it down to Poole tomorrow for the first leg, check it out on the BSN. It's going to be a cracking meeting. And once again, as we've said so many times, and lots of our viewers this evening have said, it's a cracking product. If you've not watched BSN before, check it out. And watch the first leg tomorrow night live from Wimborne Road. Guys, once again, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And we might see you down there tomorrow.
Yeah,
hopefully.
Come say hi.
Absolutely, will do.
All right, guys. See you later.
Cheers,
Take care.
guys.
Bye.
Bye. There we go. And we actually ended up on the right sides now. That's pretty good.
That's a first.
That is a
for
first.
a while. That is a first for a while.
Let's get our branding up. Okay, right. So here we are. Thank you very much again to
thanks for
the guys from BSN. That's awesome. Yeah, that's we've gone a little bit longer than we normally do, and I'm being tapped on the shoulder here to show everyone a thing that Riven's made out of a Hello Panda cardboard thing. It's really good. Right, I've got to get on with my show now. Is that all right? Thank you. Yeah, good. Right, thank you everyone for sticking with us. What else do you want to do, Ben? We've got what else have we got? There was the amazing post from Steve. Oh, there we go. Yeah, from Richard
I can't
Lawson.
load it up. Everyone go and check out Richard Lawson on Instagram. He's Rich L Racing, and he posted this. When was it? Yesterday. Took me a while to get out of Tesco's because of all the autographs, and it's him holding the Speedy Star with him and Bomber on the cover. And then he added the joke that they just kept calling Bomber and wanting his autograph. Legend. He doesn't post very often, but when he does, it is quality. What else did I say? I'm glad they mentioned Artem Laguta at Kings Lynn, because I was going to ask you, did you hear anything about him, signing for Kings Lynn? I think I must have missed that.
I don't know. Maybe I was sort of out of it for a week and missed any kind of social media reference to that completely. Yeah,
mate, it was like Americans carpet bombing the Middle East. It was everywhere, and then we jumped on the bandwagon as well because Stevie Worrell couldn't keep it in and let it slip about his testimonial. No, I won't. I won't cover off what I put on the thing about the last few meetings because we're conscious of timings.
Yeah,
particularly the loss at Oxford. I did want to cover that, but that's fine.
And then.
And then
really, I think at this point, because we haven't had Speedway for so long, since Steve's testimonial, we've, who knows what version of the Pirates we're going to get tomorrow night because they haven't ridden as a team for a good little while now. It'll be good to see. But I think, do you want to touch on the Echo article?
I mean, just briefly on the preview, I agree it's going to be close. I think it's going to come down to the reserves. I can see Lee Complin getting 7 rides potentially, unless Ace Piper gets a track right, and I can see either Kyle or Adam, whoever's in favour, they potentially could get 7 rides. Yeah. I'm going 48-42 Poole tomorrow night, and then I reckon we'll lose 46-44 away at Glasgow, and we'll win by 4.
Again, I mean, I wanted to throw my prediction out while the guys were on, but I honestly. I don't want to do a prediction. I can't predict it at this stage. Again, the track's going to be weird because I think there'll be so much water underneath, and then it'll be nice and dry tomorrow. It should be a cracking track, and our track, I know, Terry hasn't been there consistently. Sorry, not his fault, obviously. But there have been some very different track services, and our guys have maybe struggled with that a little bit, not knowing what to prep for. And I think it's going to be another very different track again tomorrow. So I don't know. I just don't know, but I'm going to go there and watch and see what happens. But,
so we touched on the article. There was an article in the Echo today around Matt speaking about the future of Poole Speedway.
Yeah.
It's nothing. I don't think really it's anything people didn't know.
Exactly.
I think they put years there, but we are going to be running next year, and I believe the year after as well. As what's been muted, but
at no point is it said we're definitely at no point is it says we're definitely not running after that. At this stage, no one can confirm anything. So I see that as positive news for the next couple of seasons.
Matt said it could be 2025, could be as early as 2025, but that's by no means certain. And it'll be interesting to see how there can't be Speedway on that land. I'd be intrigued if somebody could pull it off. Particularly after getting the council in at aforementioned red car match that was postponed. So, personally, I think it's good news. We're guaranteed at least 2 seasons further. And the way to keep proving it is voting with your feet, guys. Get down there, get watching the racing. The team we got again this season, absolutely incredible. And when we've got, again, I think they touched on it. We haven't had a match yet where everyone's fired on all cylinders.
Exactly.
There's always been somebody who struggled and everyone else makes up for it. And when that happens, we're just going to absolutely demolish people.
Yeah. Might be a different mindset for Steve. I know Steve was struggling a little while, sort of in the run up to his testimonial. Obviously, he's been so busy organising all that stuff. His mind can't have been 100% on other things. But I think with the move to number 5 for Steve might give him a bit of a new lease of life. I think we could see the same Steve we saw last year at this stage, and be interesting to see how Richard fits in at 1. I mean, hopefully he arrives for Heat 1.
Well, I was going to make the joke to Ian because he said he'd like to grab a rider just before the meeting. And I said, well, good luck trying to get Richard Lawson because he turns up just before the meeting. But the Heat 1 tomorrow night, Lawson versus Harris, straight off, first heat.
That's going to be crazy.
It's going to be a cracking night. It really is going to be a good meeting.
It's going to be good. It's going to be good. And we hope to see as many of you down there as possible. Absolutely. It's going to be a great one. Head on down to Wimborne Road. If you can't make it for any reason, definitely check it out on BSN. I'm sure it'll be a cracking presentation from them. Want to remind you guys about the podcast as well. If you're watching tonight, you probably don't want to listen to it because it's exactly the same. However, we do realize that not everyone has the time to sit down and watch an hour and 20 minutes at home on TV or on their phone or what have you. So if you don't have that time, you can always download the PirateCast podcast. It's exactly the same. It's the audio from from the show we've done this evening, and it'll be just in a podcast form. You can listen whilst you're driving, listen while you're at work, all that kind of stuff. Don't get in trouble though. And don't blame it on us if you do. But you can listen. It just gives you an alternate version. You can either watch us live on YouTube. Those people who catch up on a later date, thank you very much for tuning in. You can check out the audio version on any good podcast provider as well. So we're pretty much apart from one.
No, we're done. It's an hour and 20 minutes.
No. There's one more thing we need to do though, because there is. There's definitely one more thing, which is the pirate joke. Are you prepared for the pirate joke this time?
I don't know what you're talking about. There's no preparation for the pirate joke whatsoever.
Okay, good. All right, so here we go. I'm gonna slay you all with the pirate joke, and the pirate joke this week is: what do you call a stupid pirate?
I don't know, Lee. What do you call a stupid pirate?
The pillage idiot. What is that? Every time. We're going to get that really slick one of these times.
I'm not upset. I'm just disappointed. You actually set too high a benchmark on the last one.
I thought I didn't want to make things too personal because I don't know if Anders doesn't do very well tomorrow night, I'm going to feel personally responsible. I'm just going to say.
Fair enough.
There we go.
You're going to be shouting "row" at him. Row!
If you hear that coming from the main grandstand, yes, it's probably.
You know who it is.
Right. So thank you very much for joining us this evening, everyone. We appreciate everyone tuning in. We've got all the great people in. Yes, exactly.
Hour and 25.
Hour and 25. That's a new one for us. Thank you very much for tuning in. We will see you tomorrow night down at the track. And anything else you want to finish off with, Ben?
No, I think you've covered everything beautifully, my friend.
Wow, that's a first. Okay, thanks very much for tuning in, guys. We will see you soon. Take care.
See you, guys.